Can you all hear me? At the back? Gotcha. Excellent. Right, I think, Paul, when you're ready, we're okay. Right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the latest talk at Crash Live. I am very honoured to have with me the amazing Mike Follin. So give it up, please, for Mike.
Oh, thank you. That really doesn't happen on a Sunday, but I'm just pleased that everyone's so happy. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming along, Mike. It's so good to have you here. I know you've not done this sort of thing many times before, so we're hoping that we'll hear a few new things about some of the amazing games that you created in the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm. Well,
excellent. Yeah. So let's get going. Right, so first of all, we can see here you've got Mike in the centre there, and some of his games surrounding him. But we're going to move on and talk about this picture. So I'll let Mike take you through this picture.
Okay, so that's Jeff on the left and Tim in the middle, and yeah, there was a time when we were all choir boys. But let's move swiftly on.
Yes, yeah. Tim looks like absolutely angelic in his little dungarees. Yeah. So, and you, Mike, looking particularly pleased here. Can you explain why you're looking particularly pleased?
Yeah, well, I've always been into tech, and tech when I was that age was like a watch. So that was my very first Timex watch. So I was going, see my watch. So that's just showing off the latest tech. I've been like that ever since.
A bit disappointed you haven't worn it today.
Well, it did fall to bits about 50 years ago, so yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And then a few years later, this is yourself, Jeff on the left, of course, and Tim as well. Yeah. So that's a photo of you guys a bit grown up. And then as youngsters, and teenagers, you were really very musical. And you all loved music, and actually we got a picture of you, all three of you here in a band together. Yeah. Does anyone know who that really is? Rush, yes, of course. Yeah. So you were big fans of this band in particular?
Yeah, well, we were all fans of prog. I guess there was this kind of hippie couple that lived next door to us, and they lent us their record collection one year. So we just sat around and listened to all this prog, and we thought, this is great. But actually, I don't think Rush was in there, but because Rush were a guitar band, and I got an electric guitar, so we started playing Rush songs. So I played lead and Jeff played bass. Tim was a bit young, but he did get a keyboard at one point. So yeah, we just, the kind of prog that you could play on a guitar was Rush, so that's what we did, yeah.
Excellent. So yeah, this is actually a picture of the Follins in action. So I'll leave Mike to describe this scene.
Oh, right, so this was at our church hall. The curate was wanted to be a cool vicar sort of person, imagine that. And he was decided to get us together for a gig. So we played, I think it was mostly Status Quo. I don't think we did any Rush. Baker Street we did, and a few other sort of rock numbers from the time. So that's me on the left with a Stratocaster, which was a Tax Dodge, and then Jeff on acoustic when he was going through his acoustic phase. That's Chris the curate in the middle, and Tim on keyboards on the right. And the drummer there is actually our cousin Steve, who is a drum teacher. So we do have a pretty musical family. We've all got some attachment. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm sure you'd all love to listen to Mike and me talk about music all evening, but we're going to move on to something else, some gaming. Mm-hmm. And as you've already alluded to, Mike, you're a bit of a tech fan. So this, I don't think it's your actual first one you said earlier, is it? It's a different one to what you get, but it's a similar sort of model.
It's very similar. We had an identical one, but it had 2 extra games on, so that's the much better version than that. We got the one with the light gun on it as well. I remember going on holiday and just playing that all the time. Instead of going to the seaside or anything, we just played on the Bionic, because that's what you did.
Yes.
And that was the leading games console of the time, of course. pre-Spectrum. Yeah.
Absolutely, and being able to manipulate the TV screen rather than just passively watch it, I imagine was a big change for you.
That was always amazing, wasn't it? You remember those days when the thing that was on the TV was what the BBC or the ITV decided to put on it. You couldn't change it, and then suddenly you could put something different on the screen. That was amazing, and that was the first chance you got to do it with those. Yeah.
Absolutely, and this next one is the computer that you really fell in love with, of course, as we all did here.
Yeah.
What is it?
It
Dragon
says on it,
32.
doesn't it? It's the Sinclair, apparently. It says on it, yeah.
So tell us about your first experience with the Spectrum.
Okay, so I actually got interested in ZX81. I was reading I was about to buy one, and then I saw this thing, ZX Spectrum was announced, and it had colours. I've always been a fan of colours, so I thought, I'm going to wait till we get a colour one, which meant waiting another year, and then I ordered it straight away, but it took a long time to deliver it, because I don't know if anyone ordered one of the first ones, and there were delays with the Timex factory in Scotland or something. So that was when I was at university, and I got a grant, so instead of going to lectures, I did programming instead. So it was a remarkable thing again. Having waited for the ZX Spectrum colour computer, I got to put it on the best television I had, which of course was a black and white portable. But it worked. Yeah, there were plenty of shades of grey on it. Yeah. So
Excellent. And we've got a little image here from Crash, which we've kind of leapt on a little bit because this Programmers on Programmers article, it obviously came out a few years later once Mike was established as a coder on the Spectrum, and Crash did this article, Programmers on Programmers. And the reason I put this up now is because I was going to ask Mike what games he played or what games he liked to play on his new Spectrum in black and white, and he's put here the 3 games he's put are Night Law, Codename Matt, and Pentagram. And you're gonna just take us through these games, Mike. What you liked about these games in particular?
Well, you had to love Night Law because it was just different. Isometric perspective was just breakthrough at the time, wasn't it? So that was amazing. Codename Matt was a Star Raiders. I'd seen Star Raiders on the Atari, and that was the closest thing you could get on a Spectrum, which is still a fun game. I always liked the idea of a 3D game, flying through space kind of thing, so that's where Codename Matt came from. Pentagram was because I didn't have anything else I could think of at the time, and I thought of Night Law. I thought, oh yeah, what's that other one like Night Law? Yeah, that one. Because that just
will do.
Yeah. I do love things like Death Chase. I think was one of my favourite games as well, because it's fast, it's 3D, all the things I liked. Yeah.
Excellent. And then we're moving on to your first game that you coded yourself. So before we talk about Subterranean Striker, how did you kind of move on to coding on the Spectrum? How did you discover this? Was it through type-ins, or did you just delve into it yourself?
Didn't do many type-ins because you always made a mistake somewhere. I got a book about how to code machine code on the Spectrum, which was a very sort of cheap book, which sort of literally fell to bits within a few hours. But it had all the basics in there, so I just taught myself from that book, really. I think I was later on we got the Spectrum ROM disassembly, but that was a few years into it. So originally, it was just how to write machine code on the ZX Spectrum, I think it's called. And it told you everything you needed to know, and everything else then was just experimentation. What you do to not make it crash and keep going until you got something fast. Of course, you realised pretty soon that you couldn't write in BASIC and get any sort of decent speed out of it, so you had to do machine code. Although I was pretty naive in the first day, so I remember getting a bit geeky now, but there's a roll instruction in Z80, rotate left and rotate right. I assumed if you put one of those in, it gave you a flight simulator, because you're playing with roll. That was pretty naive. That was how stupid I was at the time. I didn't know anything at all about coding, but it's just practice and getting yourself an assembler and trying it out and seeing what you could do. So I loved Defender in the arcades, so I thought, let's have a go at doing something like that. So then I liked the idea of caves and put the two together, and it didn't work, but okay, I'll give it a try.
Yes, so your idea was to take Defender, one of the hardest games in the arcades, and put it in caves.
Yeah, make it harder.
Make it harder, basically, yeah.
So it was fun from my point of view, learning how to code, because I learned a lot just by trying it. And back in those days, you had to write your own graphics editor. So first, I had to write a program to enable me to create the graphics for it, and then I let a couple of other people have a go at that, because because they were better at graphics than I was. But yeah, it taught me a lot about how to do things on the Spectrum, how to scroll quite badly and put a game together, get the whole thing running. So yeah, it was fun. It was something I was working on at home, and then somebody rang up and said, "Do you want to come and work for me?" So I said, "Oh yeah, great. I get paid for doing what I'm doing anyway." So that wasn't exactly what I was hoping for then.
This you're alluding to the Insight chaps here, aren't you? And we've got the Insight logo here on the next screen, and also coincidentally, I managed to get a snapshot of Mike's first pay packet.
It's vastly exaggerated, I can tell you.
Yeah, it's actually a bit more than he got. But okay, so tell us a bit about these guys. As you can see, they're addressed there. They're from St Helens. Tell us a bit about these chaps.
Yeah, a couple of brothers from St Helens had decided, computer games was the get rich quick scheme. So they had a couple of shops, one in Wigan and one in St Helens, and then they put the young lads to work upstairs in a windowless room and didn't pay us for the privilege of giving them games every so often. I'm not quite sure how we got into that, but we did. That's how it was. So then they paid us 40 quid a week, which was because that was a grant from the government that they could give to us. I think they still managed to knock a bit off. But, so basically, they got us for free, so we created quite a few games for no money whatsoever as far as they were concerned. So that's, not the best wages.
And they were... The first game that they published from you was this game Vectron, which was a crash smash. It was very popular. Crash certainly liked it. Can anyone guess what film might have been inspired by? Yes. So tell us a bit, Mike, about your love of Tron and devising Vectron.
Yeah, it's. Yeah, there's quite a lot to it, really. I mean, Vectron is a combination of vector, because we've got some Vectrix, those systems, a few of those around here, Vectrix. So I thought something that looked like vector graphics that wasn't, and then of course Tron, put them together and you get the word Vectron, which is now in the Urban Dictionary if you want to look that up later. And it's been used in this comedy sketch as well. I waited for my royalties from Mitchell and Webb for that one. But yeah, I mean, it was a great film. It had a big effect on me as it's all about a computer program. How many films have been about computer programs? Not a lot. And the plot to it was amazing, because when you think about it and you get a bit more philosophical about it, it's the creator becomes part of his creation, and he wanders around and he's got miraculous powers. He fights against evil and then has to sacrifice himself in order to put things right. And that is actually Christianity. But only when you think about it. But it is.
You definitely didn't get that in Mrs. Doubtfire.
So it goes quite deep, and it's the whole thing more recently about the Matrix and the simulation hypothesis. Are we put here? Do we have a creator? Well, I think so. So and at the time, it was the visuals were so amazing that people didn't stop and think about the plot. But yeah, there's an awful lot in that film. It's an amazing thing, never to be repeated probably.
Yeah. And the game itself, because as I say, I did get a crash smash, but I tried playing it again. I played it obviously back in the day. I tried playing it again recently for this talk, and well, the game was basically over before I think it even started. And it is literally the fastest game I've played on the Spectrum.
Well, yeah, you don't get any break in the speed of it, so it's pretty intense. There's a way of doing it. It's too fast, and one of the reasons it's too fast was while I was coding it, I discovered how to use the stack. And if you're a proper Spectrum programmer, you know what the stack does. It sort of makes everything go twice as fast, if not more. So as soon as I started using that, it sped up an incredible amount, and to the point where you can't play it really. Sorry. This is the best part of it.
That's the best part, yes. Yeah. Sorry, we'll move on to that as I accidentally pressed it. But
I can turn your laptop audio down if you want me to.
Could you do that?
Yeah.
That'd be great. Thanks, Ben. Yeah. As much as we love Mr. Follin, the junior music, yes. But yeah, tell me a little bit about this, because obviously growing up with Tim, he was very musical, and then all of a sudden you're making games. and I think this was your first collaboration as well, where he produced the soundful.
He did Subterranean Striker before that.
He did some work on that, okay.
And I think Star Firebirds as well.
Mm.
So yeah, I sort of... Tim sat there while I was coding and learning how to code. And he thought he'd have a go at doing that. And I said, well, I've not done any music, why don't you have a go at doing music? And so he did. And the rest is history. Yeah, but I taught him bad programming techniques like self-modifying code, which then he used all the time, because once you learn a trick, then you keep on using the same trick. I've just been texting Tim actually, and he did say if anyone's got a question for Tim, then maybe one question we can give Tim a question.
Well, hopefully we'll have a time for a Q&A. I was thinking the Q&A with you, but you know, if Tim's up for it as well,
it'll take a while to text him. But,
and we just got a little video playing now of me playing Vectron earlier.
Doing okay actually, yeah.
Yeah.
So
no,
wrong.
No, and then I go
Right
wrong,
turn,
and
sorry.
then wrong
Left turn.
again. So yeah. So
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, you missed the pickup there.
yeah. And game over.
That's how most games went, yeah.
So yeah, that was fun. So so as I say, it got a crash smash. And if we look at some of the comments here, I've highlighted some of the comments, and you must have been pleased about this.
Yeah.
Vectron is just about one of the best games I've seen for the Spectrum for eons. And then another review, of course the reviewers were anonymous at this time for Crash. The sheer speed of the program is well impressive, and the 3D graphics are the best I've ever seen. And my only gripe, there's always one with Crash, isn't there? My only gripe, apart from the initial difficulty of the game, is the fact that there isn't a high score table.
Wasn't there? Yeah, right. I thought I was putting high score tables in, even when
Yes.
it didn't really have much point. It wasn't an arcade copy, so maybe that's why there wasn't. But yeah, I got a phone call from Crash when I was up in the attic in the darkened rooms where I was coding away, and it sort of was really encouraging, because he said, "Oh, yeah, it's great. This was." I don't know who it was, but he said, "Oh," and mentioned I had some scrolling text as it loaded and a countdown as it loaded, and then a border picture as well, which was all quite new, so it was more of a tech demo than a game, I think, in retrospect. But it was really great to have the encouraging call from Crash saying, "That's really good, can you do some more," sort of thing.
Yes, absolutely. I imagine it was probably Lloyd who phoned you.
It may well be,
Yeah, he's quite good with that. So that was Vectron. We've obviously done that for Insight, and then we've got a couple of games here. Actually, the first game we've got here, Buccaneer, which was a shoot 'em up. It's not actually written by you, but we're going to talk about an aspect of that in a moment. And then we've got Star Firebirds, which was written by you. So why don't you take us through Star Firebirds, which, as we discussed earlier, is obviously influenced by
It
another.
was nothing to do with the arcade game of almost the same name. Yeah, you got away with a lot in those days, license-wise. I'm still waiting for Disney to come after me, but we'll see about that. So yeah, there was an arcade game called Space Firebirds. We did this one. The best thing about this was the music by Tim, which was a version of Stravinsky's Firebird Suite for those classical nonce there. Yeah. But basically, it was just a straightforward shoot 'em up, as was very common in the arcades at the time. Wasn't the best one, but it was quite fun, and didn't take long to code, so I just sort of knocked that up between Subterranean and Vectron, I think.
Okay, and then the aspect that was interesting me was their Hall of Fame. So you, whether you did one in Vectron or not, we're not sure. According to Crash, you didn't. But anyway, you definitely did one for Star Firebirds, and the guy that coded Buccaneer, which is a chap called Peter Goff, who I believe was a colleague at. Was he at Insight as well? Yeah. He coded Buccaneer, but he mentions you on number 2 on his Hall of Fame. So what was that about then?
Well, he just sort of said, "Right, I'm going to write a game. Can you give me some code for it?" So we gave him a lot of code here and there, and he wasn't 100% how to use it, and he did things like let the sprites wander off the bottom of the screen into the code itself, which is it doesn't work very well when it does that. But it's okay. Yeah. So some of the other names on there I might remember.
Well, we've got one of them sitting right here at the front, haven't we? Number 9.
Yes.
Paul Hughes
down there.
Paul Hughes down there. I assume that's you. And this is another Paul Hughes that Peter was name checking. So Mark Wilson, Gareth Roberts, Ian McCafferty.
Yeah.
And I guess the ones that are interesting are Tony Boss Brady and Mike Kidd Brady. So you know who these guys are, don't you?
Yeah, they're the brothers who I would say employed us, but yeah. So they sent us up in the attic at 9 o'clock in the morning, and occasionally would see us later. So yeah, they sort of had the premises, which was the computer game shop in Wigan and the St Helens. I think Polly was in the Wigan one, and Peter Goff was from Wigan, although he came over to St Helens, I think. So Gareth was somebody who was at university with, I think. I'm not sure about the others.
Well, it's just a way of name checking a few mates, I suppose, isn't it? That
Yeah,
Peter did.
Probably Peter's ones, yeah.
Yeah, and then moving on to the Hall of Fame for Star Firebirds. I mean, can anyone guess the movie? Mrs. Doubtfire, yes. It's a common film, yeah.
Yes.
Considering this was like 6 years before the film came out, it's quite impressive, isn't it? But yeah, the one I asked you about earlier, Mike, was number 2. What's that mean? And
Yeah, I'm guessing that's the first letter of a phrase.
right.
So yeah, if anyone can figure that out, well done. I can't.
Yes, yeah, that's an odd one. But anyway, you were obviously a fan of Star Wars as well, so you
Yeah.
decided to put that in
You've
for
gotta be,
the
yeah.
Star Firebirds. And then your next game, or a game about this time, I know that there's a lot going on. Is this is one of my favourites actually, a Mastertronic game. It was one of these games where you had lots of different styles within one game. It was 2 loads, I believe, and this is a bit of a mixed effort, isn't it, from the Follins?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, in fact, this was the only time until recently that Tim actually wrote some code. So the one on the top left with a big countdown on the top, and the middle third of the screen in red and white. Tim chose those colours just to be awkward, and that was Tim's coding, which was actually quite a fun game. So it, obviously just a compendium of little games, mini games, as there were so many other sports games, decathlon and so on at the time. We thought we'd do one and set it in the future, space sort of stuff. So yeah, we enjoyed doing it. I think Peter Goff did a couple of those, and I did a couple, and Tim did one.
Yeah, they're like a lot of these games at the time, they're kind of a bit of a rip-off of other games. So the one with the animal with the spiky thing there, that's like a keyboard masher, isn't it?
Yeah.
We think Peter might have done. And then the one underneath that is your homage, let's say, to a certain Commodore 64 game.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, well, I was Defender, and then that was sort of Defender, remove once and then remove twice for what I did.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also did the one on the bottom left, which is a sort of dodge the asteroids. Yes, and you have to jump on each rock.
Yeah, it's about the simplest game you can get. You know, choose one of 3 rocks to be stood on to avoid the asteroid that's coming towards you. But actually, it's quite fun.
Was this still while you were at Insight? Or had you
Yeah,
moved
this
on?
was still Insight at this point. Yeah.
So they sold the game on to Mastertronic, and would have got paid by Mastertronic presumably. And did you ever see anything more than the peanuts? Or
I've never seen any royalties ever on anything.
right?
So no. Oh, I should say perhaps we met the Tatlock brothers at that point as well.
Yep.
Steve and John came in one day. I helped them to do the mastering of Agent X, and of course Tim did the music. So another famous brothers pair that were involved at the time.
And they were from St Helens.
Yeah,
I
they're
think,
from
as
St
well.
Helens. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay, so future games we've done, and you've come to your end of your time at Insight now, and you've been tempted away by a company called Software Creations. And funnily enough, we've got a picture of Mike's first pay packet there as well.
Yeah, well, they paid us a wage at Software Creations, and that was a vast improvement. Never any royalties, but a wage was nice, yeah. So I think I bought a car not long after that. Well, yeah, those were the days.
So tell us about Software Creations and how you started work there then.
Well, that was Peter Goff, I think, put in a good word. I think Paulie did too. And I remember going to see Richard Kay in the office, and so we took him a demo of some sort of kung fu game, which I just randomly started working on because they were popular. And they said, yeah, you can have a job. And it got me doing work from home at first. So he took me down London way to see a certain Mr. Crammond. So is that our next slide?
That's the next slide.
Yeah.
That's the next slide, yeah. So let's have a look at this. So this is one of my favourite games on the Spectrum. Quite incredible game as well. I think we've got some video footage of it. If I press that, yeah, we've got some video footage of it. So this was, as Mike said, a game by Jeff Crammond, and it originated on the BBC, I think. And,
I think so, yeah.
And
BBC,
once
yeah.
introduced, they had in mind for you to do the Spectrum version of this game, yeah?
Yeah, Richard convinced Jeff Crammond I could do it. I think I went down to Jeff's house with a Spectrum demo, just some scrolling or something, so we thought, well, maybe you can do it. I told Richard, you're not going to see anything on the screen until it's nearly finished, unlike other arcade games where you can do a bit at a time. This was, it's not going to work until it all works. So he was quite worried about it, but I think maybe 3 months later, then I just gave it to him. I spent a good time on the phone with Jeff Crammond on several occasions, asking him questions about it. But he'd done the BBC version. He gave me the code for the Amstrad version of it, which then needed a lot of fiddling around to get it working on Spectrum with shaded graphics and textures and things, rather than just colours. Jeff was an interesting chap. He was very serious, I'd say, but obviously very brilliant to actually believe that the maths could work on the Spectrum, that you could do that. So I did look again at that recently and think, I should really do a 1 to 8K version of that, because you can fill up the memory with lookup tables and make it all go faster. But maybe it's a bit late for that. You just get Spectrum Next now instead, I suppose.
Well, to be fair, I think we can agree it moves pretty well, considering it's rotating that fully 3D world, which we didn't get very often. Obviously, we had the demonstration from Incentive just now with the first person.
Well, that's the strange thing about it, because Jeff Crammond actually thought it was going to be sort of real-time 3D. So he had aircraft flying about and things. He thought it would be fast enough to do real time, and then he realised it wasn't. But that sort of gave him the game that is, by not just Spectrum, but any 8-bit computer's inability to render anything decent in real time.
Was this a bit more of a challenge for you? Because so far, obviously, what we've done, we've had the Defender game, and we've had the bits like the game in future games. Was this something a bit of a step up for you?
Well, it was just different. I mean, I can't take much credit for it, because it was Jeff's code with me just doing the sort of spectrumization of it, putting the textures in it and how to render it on the Spectrum. And then I went through all his code and optimized bits, because it was all his code came from a 6502 cross assembler. So we'd written it 6502 and then written the program to rewrite 6502 as Z80 code, which all works. You've got more registers on the Z80, you can do that pretty easily. But it's not very efficient. So I had to go through and basically change everything to make it run in any kind of reasonable time. So the whole game concept really came out of the inability of 8-bit machines to do the thing you wanted to do in real time. So but I did very little on that. I think my best bit was the scrolling the text in the border at the start of it.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people here enjoy playing it, Mike, anyway. And this sort of started your trend for conversion work, because although obviously Star Firebirds it was a homage to Space Firebirds, and your other game, Subterranean Striker on Defender, they were actually original games, so to speak. So now we were starting on converting arcade work, starting with this amazing game, Bobble, again for Firebird, and this is for your second game for Software Creations, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. So that was when we first started in the office in Manchester, so it became a sort of 9 to 5 job, which was kind of nice. And we had an arcade cabinet in the office, so who wouldn't want a job like that? You just come in the morning and spend the whole morning usually finding excuses why you need to keep on playing the game, and then in the afternoons we'd just go away and code it. Just basically all the arcade conversions I did really were just, you had the arcade machine and then you did your own version of it. It wasn't like nobody gave us code for it or anything. It was, Bobble was the only one we ever got any sort of assets from the original game, which was when we'd almost finished it and they gave us some extra data which then didn't fit into the memory because you'd carefully allocated it all. So that's when I had to cut it down from 100 levels to 80 levels.
Yes, of course. The arcade game is 100 levels. You have to work your way through, and the Spectrum one only contained 80. So I don't know if anyone actually. I don't think I got that far for sure. So maybe you got away with that one.
Maybe if you got an infinite lives poke, you maybe found that out. But no, I never heard of anyone complaining about it because 80 levels is quite a lot. They're all very detailed levels. They're all different. So yeah, it was just. I always thought, if you get a good arcade game, very playable to start with, if you do even just a half-decent conversion of it, then you've got a great version on the Spectrum. So a lot of my arcade games were like that. I just started off with a really good arcade game, and then just do a half decent conversion. I mean, it's not that I tried to. I did my best on the conversions, but they came out pretty well on the Spectrum because the arcade games were so good, so playable.
Yes, that's excellent. And of course, there was no scrolling on Bobble as well, so you didn't have to worry about that.
I was very jealous of the C64 program because because it had sprites already, and Steve Woody decided to miss out one sprite, and then he did the whole thing in sprites apart from the bubbles. So it was basically designed to work well on the C64, but on the Spectrum, you had to do everything in software. It's a lot trickier.
Yeah, absolutely. So next up, perhaps one of your lesser known games, but an original game, is Black Lamp, again for Firebird, while you're at Software Creation. So this is maybe not such a well-known game, an arcade adventure, and it's got an interesting story when it comes to reviews, but we'll get onto that in a moment. Let's just talk about the game itself first, Mike.
Right, well this was, it was a Amiga and ST game, written by a couple of guys in Liverpool, I think, and we went to see them and asked them about it. But the thing was, the game was what it was because it was in colour, it was on the Amiga and it was on the ST. That was the selling point. Oh look, it's in colour, when in the early days of the 16 bits. So we got to sort of down convert from Amiga to Spectrum. So you take the colour out of the game, which is reliant on its colour, and you go, well, is there much of a game there? I didn't think so, but yeah.
How did you work around that then? Sorry, water.
I'm not sure we did. The lamps are coloured. Yeah.
Well, according to Crash Magazine, you didn't because it gave you 57%. Now, I know 57% is an above average score, but I don't know about everyone else here, but if I saw a game got 50% in Crash, I wasn't buying it. I mean, I probably wouldn't have even pirated, not that I did that sort of thing. Just clarifying that for Mr. Hughes there. But yeah, and then over on Sinclair user, are we getting some boos there? Sinclair user? It got 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. So I can't remember if there was a cover for Black Lamp on Sinclair user. That might have explained things. But yeah, quite a diverse pair of scores there. Yeah. Which are you going with?
The Crash one. Yeah, that was the honest score it should have got, I think. I don't know if any money changed hands, but I don't like to think about such things. But yeah, the Crash. I always thought Crash gave honest reviews of things. So yeah, that didn't deserve a Crash Smash. Neither did Subterranean Striker or Starfibers. So yeah, fair enough.
Excellent. Okay, and then we'll move on to this is one of your favourites of mine in particular. Obviously, we've had Ghosts and Goblins from Elite a couple of years earlier, and the sequel from Capcom, Inevitable sequel, was converted by yourself onto the Spectrum, Ghouls and Ghosts. And I think you did for this a 48 and a 128K version, didn't you? Because obviously we've got the 128K now.
Yeah, so it did a full load of the whole. Every level was a 48K game, so it would load in the whole lot, and you could play all 5 levels if you could get through the 5 levels, which probably a lot of people wasted a lot of time loading levels they never get to. But
well, yes, I do have some video of this as well, and like Vectron, I wasn't much good at this one as well. But it's got a nice intro here, where we go like into the first level, and you've got the knight, which you had in the first game as well. But it is as merciless as the first game, really. It seems to have a bit more playability on the outset, and then it turns into a duck.
Well, you shot the chest. You shouldn't have shot that chest.
Yes.
If you learn the patterns, you work out. Shoot the second chest, not the first one.
Well, I forgot that. Sorry. 40 years it's been.
Yeah. Well, so I mean the first one by Keith Burkle was an amazing piece of coding. So I sort of had to live up to that. I think I used pretty similar techniques in the coding of it, really. But the difference between the arcade games was it had little sprites in the first one and enormous sprites in the second one. So I had to try and get some enormous sprites in this, which usually the end of level bosses were pretty big. But yeah, I think it worked okay as an arcade conversion. It's it was quite fun to play. And again, it was just a matter of we had the arcade game in the office and played it until we were good at it, and then went down to the arcade in the centre of Manchester and just played it all day because we could.
I imagine the arcade machine in the office was on free play. We didn't have to shove 10
yes.
in there.
Yeah, maybe with some of my previous employees would have had to pay 10 pence to play it. But yeah, it was yeah, always free play. So yeah, we just spent as much time as you needed to on it, and eventually you would wander off and actually start doing some work.
So what, what was the trick then with these sort of games then? You're obviously playing them a lot so that you can explore the later levels. What was the trick? Is it just learning the patterns? You've already mentioned that with me and the chess. So you have there's a simple pattern to it, presumably.
There is a pattern. It takes a while, and eventually somebody figures it out. Whether it was Steve Ruddy or myself or Threll the artist or someone who just playing it all the time and going, yeah, don't shoot the first chest. The second one will give you your armour. The third one no, and the fourth one yes. And Bobble was very much like that. There's all sorts of things you've got to do to score highly on it and get your bonuses and so on. So yeah, it's just a matter of playing it and playing it and playing it until you were sort of an expert on that particular arcade game, and then you had the expertise just to write it. If you had a vague idea how to program it.
Excellent, excellent. You mentioned there a couple of the other chaps. We haven't talked about them yet because we should mention that, because back obviously in the days of Subterranean Striker, you were coding all these games yourself. You were doing everything apart from a bit of music from Tim, obviously. But now you've got graphic artists and other people involved in the creation of these as well. So can you tell us a little bit about those guys?
Yeah, I was still doing all the programming, but yeah, we had artists. I mean, we did it Insight really, because Peter Goff did a lot of artists, and Mark Wilson did some graphics as well. We had enough artists to do all the artwork when we got to Software Creations. So we had Andrew Threlfall at first, and then other people joined later on. I guess it was mostly they were just looking at the arcade game as well and trying to draw something that was similar. I think I said to Andrew Threlfall, his Bobble and Bob were a bit too tall, and he was really, really annoyed with me and never forgave me ever, I don't think, for criticising his artwork. But he did fix it, so.
Okay, well, they're not tall, are they? So you were right, weren't you?
Yeah, they're perfect now. Yeah.
Yes,
Second attempt was perfect. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I imagine the next game, another Capcom game as well. I mean, I don't know how you're feeling about these games at this point, because obviously the situation we had is arcade games were becoming more and more complex, but obviously they could improve their technology by having different boards. But obviously you couldn't do that with the Spectrum. So how are you feeling at this point about having to do these more and more complex arcade machines on the Spectrum?
Well, that was the fun of it, really. It was a challenge. How do you do it? And there were a lot of good arcade games. So if you can do it justice halfway, you've still got a good game. So I did different sort of engines on different games, and I should have just stuck to one. But this was something a bit different, where more colour and then a scroll, which was. It's a bit jerky, but it's fast, and also you can force the scroll by shooting out your bionic arm. So there's a lot in this game with the shooting and grappling. You can grapple guns to yourself, you can climb up using your bionic arm. I mean, a lot more recently I've been playing Halo Infinite, and you realise it's just all the same elements as Bionic Commando. You've got a grapple, you shoot, you can knock people out with your grapple, stun them and pick things up with it and climb up with it. It's just all the same elements of gameplay, but in 3D, and I don't know how many years, 40, 50 years later. Yeah.
Maybe you should give Microsoft a call, see if you can get something out of them.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, or Capcom could, yeah.
Capcom,
Say,
yes.
hang on, you've just done a 3D version of our game. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was Bionic Commando, and I haven't mentioned this. I haven't got the reviews of these, but these were all well reviewed crash smashes. So you're earning obviously a bit of a reputation now as someone that can produce the goods for these sort of things.
Well, that's the interesting thing about the good old days, wasn't it? That if you compare it with the music industry, things were done differently. So in the music industry, all the people who did the actual music were famous. All the musicians, they were the people you talk about, and I'm going to buy another record by that artist. In computer games, it was much more about the publisher for some reason. If I ask who was Bon Jovi's record company, who knows and who cares? Because you buy the artist, you don't buy the label. And yet, in computer games, the programmers were right front and centre. It was always the company, the publisher, which is a bit odd when you think about it. But that's just the way things were. And not that I was bothered about it, and don't particularly have any desire to be famous, but it's just the way things are done completely differently in the computer games industry to the music industry. So I don't know if I ever had a reputation, because often your name is buried away somewhere and nobody ever notices. I think embarrassingly, I did put it sort of in big letters on some of the games, which I'm quite embarrassed about now.
Well, I mean, certainly all these games got crash smashes. So, and as we saw earlier with the programmers on programmers article, you were recognised certainly by Crash anyway for these games. So I know Crash always in its reviews it liked to have the name of the developer in at some point. So it must have been nice to get that sort of recognition at least in the magazines.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to get a good review, because just you're doing your job well. So yeah, I suppose it was a disappointment if a game got a lower score than I was expecting, but mostly Crash did very well at. Well, I think they did. People might disagree. Some of them weren't worthy of a Crash smash, but I can certainly picked out a couple that definitely weren't worthy of Crash smash, and they didn't get them. So I always thought Crash reviews were pretty fair. And looking at other games that they reviewed and smashed and didn't, and I thought they were always very good with it.
Okay, excellent. Okay, well, we're moving on to the last Spectrum game. Well, we're not sure whether it's the last one, is it? It might be the penultimate one. I think we've got a bit mixed up here. But this is another Capcom game, LED Storm or LED Storm. I'm not sure which way round it is you pronounce that. But this again is for Software Creations, and this, after my efforts with Vectron, this is another lightning fast game, possibly a bit too fast again.
Yeah, that's I mean, the big problem with this is it's a vertically scrolling game. So if you take an arcade game and look at it, the screen is portrait rather than landscape, and you couldn't fix that on a Spectrum. The closest you'd get was block off a panel on one side and make it a little bit more portrait than it would be. But really, you couldn't get around that. So vertically scrolling games like that were always hampered by the design of the thing. You could have put a little note in the cassette inlay saying, please turn your TV on the side for this one. But I can't really see that working too well. This was one of the few that I sort of used the same engine as Ghosts and Ghouls on this one for the scrolling, because it was quite a complicated scrolling thing. And also because the had a cityscape in the background which had to have some sort of parallax effect. So I figured out I could do that.
Yes, I think we're going to see that in a minute. My pathetic efforts at playing LED Storm, unfortunately. But yes, the screen's a little bit cramped, isn't it? I guess that's what you mean there, isn't it? Yeah. So this is the start. You kind of get ready, don't you, at the start, and you get the countdown, and then you're off. And there's actually no firing in this game, is there? Either.
No, that's right. The way to destroy the other cars is to jump on top of them, which is okay. It's more realistic. It was. I don't know if it was such a great arcade game, this one, but I did my best with the conversion, but I was never really happy with it because it just wasn't as playable as some of the best ones I did.
But as we can tell from the cover, it got another Crash Smash, so another Crash Smash for you there, Mike. We're racking them up now, must be on 5 now, isn't it, or 6?
5 or 6, yeah. So it's, it was nice to get the Crash Smash. I don't know, did that one deserve it? Not from playability. You tended to find, though, I always found in reviews, if it got like 90% on something, it would get nearly 90% plus or minus on everything else. And I thought sometimes, that was great music, but terrible game. But it never seemed to work out like that. The reviews were all sort of balanced, normalised or something.
That's actually a good point, actually. You mentioned about the music here. Ben, is it possible we can have the laptop music? Because we're just going to have it. We've dodged it so far. We've had a little bit of Tim's music, but LED Storm is my favourite. So we're going to try and play a bit, not that bit, of music to LED Storm. So here we go. This is obviously the 1 to 8K OY chip. Was that you calling him Timothy Follin, or himself? Or?
Probably just to wind him up. I mean, it's the running joke is all my games. The best part of any of my games was Tim's music, which is I think that's fair, really. But yeah, you can hear typical arpeggios going on there because obviously you didn't have so many channels to work with. So if you arpeggiate a chord, you can make it sound a bit like there's bigger chords going on than there are. But yeah, Tim did his own thing with music, just figuring out how to do it from my teaching him how to code badly, probably some years before this was. He just went off and he knew how to design a music driver, so although he wrote his own on Spectrum, he soon got people to just write it. I think I did the music driver for him on the 16-bit systems, just because I wanted a bit of experience coding 16-bit. But it was always, Tim's spec for a driver, so he could do the things he wanted to do. And then, of course, he did his coding just by typing in numbers rather than playing on the keyboard or anything. He'd just type in numbers till it sounded good.
And the thing about it is as well is that's actually half the battle. Doing it is one thing, but actually making, as we just heard just then, a really good tune as well. That's the other part of it. And probably, well, I'm sure growing up with you guys making music in real life, well, this is real life, but you know what I mean, with real instruments, probably gave him a good grounding there, I imagine.
Yeah, made Tim suffer all my prog phase and everything else. But I mean, yeah, we had a good smattering of music. My mum's was like church organist, and uncle went around doing sort of classical music evenings. And got my cousin Steve playing the drums before. We got another cousin who a professional singer, and various other options within the family for music. I meant to find out. I've never quite found out because on a game we'll come to a bit later, features a certain person playing a mouth organ. Well, my dad wasn't very musical, but he played mouth organ, so I'm just wondering where that came from. I might find that out later.
Interesting, yeah, okay. And this was the end of the spectrum for you, or this sort of time, and you moved on to a different type. Well, I think you went via maybe another
machine on Game Boy, and then we got onto this.
Then you got onto this. Now you're not a big fan of the SNES, are you? So we've got the sneering man from Future Games here, from the loading screen of Future Games. So tell us a little bit briefly about your relationship with this Nintendo console.
Well, yeah, that was just all wrong. It was 6502 based, although it wasn't even the proper 6502. So I wasn't familiar with the way it worked, and then it had all this Nintendo stuff, which meant you had to do things Nintendo's way. And on Spectrum, you can just do anything you want your way, and you just got that lump of memory and make things appear on it however you want to do it. The Nintendo way is very much you have to follow the rules, and I just never liked it. It was almost as though it wasn't even deterministic, so you could do something and do it slightly differently, and it would just break, it would just crash, and you go, well, I'm not changing anything, why are you crashing? So just hated it. It was a horrible machine.
Yeah, it must have been a bit of a shock from the open structure of the Spectrum and being able to design whatever you want within the limits of the machine, of course, to having all these constrictions.
Yeah. I mean, I did a couple of games on that. So did Spider-Man and the X-Men was my first game on that, but that was a bit much for me to do, so I actually brought in Steve Ruddy and Kevin Edwards, did a couple of levels for it. So all together, we put it together, and of course the best thing about it was Tim's music. So
recurring theme, that isn't it? Yeah. So did this put you off programming games?
Certainly that system. I did Thomas the Tank Engine on that system. I was getting a bit fed up with I always liked sort of the design as well as the programming, even if it was a very little bit of design on some of the arcade conversions, just having the freedom to do. And it was getting to this stage then where we needed a bigger team on it. So I'm not sure if the Pickfords are in today, but they'll be tomorrow.
Steve Pickford, yes,
yeah,
over there, yeah.
All right, Steve. So, because John was sort of being the game designer at that point, and I got a bit fed up of being a game designer and a programmer because I wanted to do both. So I think it was after Thomas the Tank Engine, which I got a license for, that I moved on to Malibu, which is another story.
Oh yes, the Malibu story, yeah. Sadly we haven't got time to detail all that, unfortunately, but that's another story and a half.
Yeah, yes, not always a good one. No, that was, the game that never got released. And I just got married, and then the guy turned up from America and said, "Oh, you're fired." Oh, thanks for that. And the reason was because I hadn't done enough work on it, but we also had was it Sega Dreamcast or some Sega machine that was out at the time.
And they've been around.
And it was exactly the same game on both of them, but apparently I hadn't done enough work on the Super Nintendo version, whereas the guy programming the other one had. And it was nothing whatsoever to do with Nintendo had just cancelled production of the SNES at the time. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, difficult times. The Spectrum time was the best, let's be honest. You know, everything
Yeah,
was
it
easy
was,
and
yeah.
roses
Yeah.
then, wasn't it? And you weren't paying peanuts or anything, of course not. Anyway, thank you so much for taking us through your time, Mike. It's
You're
been
welcome.
real fun chatting
Yeah.
about those, and also the family and the Follins growing up and everything. I think we've got time for some questions.
Yep.
If
Yeah.
anyone would like to ask Mike any questions. Anyone? Oh, we've got a question at the front here from Andrew.
You mentioned earlier about sort of optimizing your code. Was there ever a piece of code you wrote and it worked first time?
Probably not, no. Yeah, somebody sat over my shoulder and watched me coding one day and decided I hadn't got a clue what I was doing. So I tend to write routines from the middle outwards and things like that, so I got it all in my mind, but actually getting it into the typed in, probably not. So I'm sure there was something at some point I wrote that worked, but not as a norm. Mind you, in those days, of course, you didn't have a debugging or anything, so if you didn't get it right, it crashed, so you had to do it again. So it wasn't long before you figured out where you were going wrong. But yeah, the optimizing thing was, I think, on the Sentinel, that was just nearly all of it was just optimizing and fixing stuff that ended up being bad code because it wasn't human written. So yeah, that's a good thing.
Anyone else got any questions for Mike? Would like to ask Mike something? We also have one question.
One question for
Is it
Tim.
only one question for Tim?
Well, we'll see.
Is he busy? Is he?
He is, yeah.
Okay. We've got one question for Tim. If anyone wants to
Oh,
ask
yeah.
Tim
Oh, we
anything.
got one over here.
Oh,
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on anyone's toes.
Yeah.
Question for Tim and for you. Can you come back here next year with Tim?
Well, I've discussed it with Tim actually. He was busy doing a video shoot for his latest game. You know, Tim's actually the one who's continued doing games. So he's doing that this weekend. He's just about finished now, I think. But I did say to him, "Do you want to come to this?" And he said, "Well, I'm busy." But I said, "Well, come next year." And he's, "Well, maybe." I've got to work on him. Yeah.
Making games is an excuse not to attend here.
I guess it is. Yeah.
We permit that.
Yeah.
He's allowed to go off and make
He
games.
is, yeah, he is.
Is he still doing the sound design for all these games as well then?
He does the video and the sound and the coding and everything.
Okay. Cool. Can you
yes.
tell us anything about what he's working on?
Yeah, because he did a game called Contradiction, which was a sort of murder mystery. So you imagine like Midsummer Murders
Right.
on it was game out on lots of different platforms, and it's a lot of he found a village somewhere and just filmed various characters talking, and you've got to work out who is telling lies, who is the murderer, and so on, that kind of thing. And then he did one called At the Dead of Night. I think that's the title, Dead of Night, something like that, which was similar. He does everything with filming it and then making a game out of what he's filmed. He just likes the idea of filming it. Now, I guess it's not as popular as it once was when you did FMV games.
Yes, that's what it was reminding me of.
Yeah.
Yes, all the FMV games of the 90s and everything. Yeah. Does anyone else have a question for Mike? Sorry, we skipped over there. No. I've got another question. I know I've asked you quite a few questions, but I've got one more.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Did we have? Sorry, the chap in the red at the front. Sorry.
Well, less of a question, more of a remark. I had a go at Vectron in a noisy shop in Munich prior to buying that game. And well, I do think you did quite an amazing job with the Tron conversion over there. And yes, of course, well, the title music is Tim Follin's best work as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. Yeah, that was one where he had, I think, 4 channels, but it also faded out at the end.
Yeah.
I never heard that before on a Spectrum. So Tim was always doing things that I thought, wow, I've never heard that before. So that's got to be good. Yeah.
I think I've actually got that. If you can turn up the laptop again, we can have a listen to that, because that fade out that Mike mentioned there is very impressive for a Spectrum. I don't think I've heard that on a Spectrum game before or after then. So we actually, if I can get to it, we have that. That's what we got a little bit of earlier, the noise from that.
This is the 1-bit days.
So this is Tim's 48K work. This is with the beeper, isn't it? Not with the AY chip. No. It goes a bit mad. Nice little scene underneath it. lovely bit of fade out there. Didn't get that very often on the Spectrum. Not with the beeper anyway,
No,
that's for sure.
First time I'd heard it. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. So yeah, my question was going to be, obviously you three brothers growing up, was there any rivalry between the three of you? You were the eldest, right? And
Yeah.
then Jeff, and then Tim was the youngest.
That's right. Yeah. I don't think so particularly. We all got on mostly. Yeah. Yeah. I think Tim was the more rebellious one. Jeff was probably the most normal one. I was somewhere in between. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all got on. We saw the picture earlier on of three of us at a pub just a couple of years ago, which was nice. We also used to meet up and keep in touch.
Excellent. All right, well thanks. Is there anyone else got any questions? I think we've got time for more if anyone else wants a question to ask Mike. Oh, got someone at the front here. Please, Ben.
I can have a comment, have a question. There's a podcast called Our Sinclair to Americans that are playing Spectrum games. Their intro music I just realized is actually LED Storm. So maybe Tim wants to know that his work is living on in that way.
I will pass that on, yes, and with a copyright demand or something.
Damn.
Did you know Tim was a lawyer now as well?
Yeah, they're getting a lesson from the solicitors before long. Well, no, I didn't know that. No, it's quite amazing to me how the Spectrum scene has just sort of continued and grown, and everyone's here today. So thank you all for coming. It's been great.
I got a question.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I'm a bit of a Capcom fan, but I'm wondering if there are any arcade games that you didn't get to convert that you really wanted to.
Ah, good one. Yes.
Ooh, yeah. Trying to think of some Capcom games now because
Commando,
was,
Ghosts and Goblins.
Yeah. I mean, I always loved R-Type in the arcade.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to get on the machine in there. There's somebody on it all the time. But basically, we used to play, Bobble or something in the office, and then at lunchtime, we used to go to the arcade and play some different games.
Yeah.
So that's really sad, isn't it? Yeah. Quick stop at McDonald's and then into the arcade. Yeah.
Brilliant. It's brilliant.
So R-Type was one of my favourites. Classic shoot 'em up.
What did you think of the 8-bit conversion of R-Type?
Yeah, I thought it was great. It was really good. I may have disassembled it a little bit at the time. Yeah, I was using RST16 as a print. Yeah. Anyway, but it was great game. Yeah, very well converted.
Was that a thing then? Sort of looking at other people's games and seeing how they did what they did?
Not really. It was just, I don't know why that one particularly I picked. Maybe it was easily hackable or something. I just wanted to have a look. Maybe there's something about it I wanted to see, but I can't remember what it was now. But it was clearly an excellent conversion and very colourful. I think it did colour better than I did on a lot of games.
Yes, it's an amazing conversion. So, thank you, Mike, for your time. Thank you for coming here and talking to us today. It's been lovely having you. There's going to be another signing session after we've finished where you can buy these lovely prints which have Mike's games on them, images from all of Mike's games, which will be just to my left here. So please, if you would like one of these signed prints by Mike here, then form an orderly queue just to my left. And thank you all for watching this latest talk at Crash Live. Give it up again, please, for Mr. Mike Follin.
I think Graeme needs a round of applause as well.
No,
just
Graeme
so he's
gets
here.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. You're up for your prints.
Well done, Mike. Thank you very much. Mike, could I ask you to sign this as well? Do you want a chair?
It's nice that comes up.
Just anywhere. Around on where it would show. Yeah, please. Thank you.